Hey, Richard Belden. You just asked me a question about a parts list. Okay. This is going to be your parts list, brother. You're going to need an MS660 top end. Whether it be the 50 millimeter, which is actually a 440 MS6, or I'm sorry, an MS440 steel jug and piston setup. Okay, which actually fits in the block factory. The only thing you would have to do if you do the 50 millimeter piston setup for an MS440 is fill these transfer ports, fill your holes, and then retap and die your new thread patterns. Okay. Another thing you're going to need is you're going to need a long stroke crank. Something like a Zeta or a GT5 crank. Because unbeknownst to a lot of people, the Zeta is a GT5. That's exactly what it is. And for other folks that's watching this video, you want to say steal this, steal that, and American made. Only if you buy an original part that is used and way older. Everything has been made in China since 2006. No joke. So therefore, you're going to need a block. You're going to need a top end kit. You're going to need a crank. You're going to need tap die set. And on top of that, you're going to need something to fill these transfer ports with. Like this here. This is what I used. After you do that, after you put this together, I'm going to tell you something else. You're going to need, let me find it, let me find it, let me think, let me find it. You're going to need a piece of radiator hose. Okay? You're going to need a piece of radiator hose, some hose clamps, and you're going to need a carburetor. That's exactly what you're going to need. This is the OKO carburetor from Boobert. And Kevin Simlak, get your fucking ass off my YouTube, bastard. I'll beat your face in. You fucking bitch-ass made motherfucker. This build is the 56 millimeter piston. This is what they call the big bore kit. Okay. So here's your stock piston. Here's your stock piston, which is actually a GT5 piston from this crank. And the reason you're going to use this crank is because this piston is just like a GT5 piston. It's a high hole wrist pin, not a low hole wrist pin. So if you use a small crank like a PK80 style crank, what they call a 30 millimeter or 30 millimeter stroke crank instead of a 40 millimeter stroke crank, you're going to wind up with problems. That's exactly what you're going to end up with. That is exactly what you're going to end up with. You can buy these carburetors on eBay directly from China. You can buy this piston setup and jug setup off eBay. The crank, you can buy it on eBay. But if you've got an old GT5 laying around, well then hey, you're in there. My particular reason of using this particular crank is it is a ZF80. This is the long rod half breed. That's exactly what this is, but it come out of a GT5. Come out of a GT5 block. That's exactly what they come out of. I've done a lot of work to a lot of motors and a lot of bikes, as everybody already knows. I mean, I've jack shafted shit. I've run their clone carburetors of the Delardo knockoff. You see where they sit in a parts box. It's exactly where they sit. Because I'm going to tell you something. This jet assembly come out of that carburetor I just had in my hand. This jet is actually smaller than the jet that come out of the factory carburetors. Them carburetors run like shit, and they're junk. I've not had one good motherfucking one of them. Not a one of them. I've had way better luck with stock carburetors. I sure have. And no, I'm not pissed off at anybody on YouTube. I'm not pissed off at anybody on YouTube. My video earlier was about my fucking family not fucking helping me get a fucking job. Motherfuckers are all too busy with their fucking selves, so fuck them. Motherfuckers want to hold you down so you can't get nowhere and want to laugh and fucking ignore it. Well, you know what? Fuck you. Fucking cocksuckers. Motherfuckers got me angry. Angry as fuck. Because, I mean, there's a big difference in between... And now we're talking brand new jug from a brand new crankcase. There's a brand new motor. When I got the motor in my hand, all the bearings went click, clack, click, clack, click, clack. So the motor had to be torn apart. It's exactly what happened to it. The motor never ran. But now, okay, here's your factory pistons, 47 millimeters, and here's your 56 next to it. Yeah, there's a big difference. You can't tell me it's not a big difference. Huge difference. Night and day difference. Night and day difference. But now, if you're going to buy one of these jugs, if you're going to do this and if you're really going to attempt this, do yourself a favor. Really look into the information that the people put out there about the product. Watch it. Because I've seen a lot of people do chainsaw rebuilds and buy these, and the cast is all fucked up. The cast is junk. Yeah. So when I bought the other motor and I sold it, and I decided to go about building another one, I decided instead of doing the 54 millimeter piston or anything else, I'm going big boy all the way. I went 56. That's as big as you can get in his blocks, guys. Look. That's as big as you can get in his block. if you think you're going to buy an MS-880 jug and piston setup for 60 millimeter piston, you're mistaken. A 60 millimeter piston will not fit in these blocks. I don't care who says what. Because the thing is, you're already running on the line here. You're running real thin on your meat, front and rears. And this is where you got to seal to. This is where you have to seal to. So if you're one of a 60 millimeter piston in, you can forget it. You can really forget it, because if you do that, you're not going to seal. It will fail. It will come apart. I don't care if Boober tells you one thing, I would not listen to him. That's my personal opinion. You don't have to have the best tools and the best setup. You don't. I mean, I'm doing this shit with fucking, cheap tools. This shit's cheap. But it does the job. It gets the job done. Another thing is, when you're buying a crank, watch the cranks that you're buying. The reason I particularly chose this crank is because I rode this motor before I did an engine swap for the guy. I did some work on the guy's bike, and it was a really strong and well-mannered motor in stock form. It's very well balanced, because the thing is, the guy had it for years on end. And the guy was like fucking 275 pounds. He rode that motherfucker everywhere. It never failed until the side of the block right here cracked and broke. It broke. Broke right here. So the clutch would no longer work. So when I did the engine swap for the guy, I kept the crank. I knew it was a good, solid, straight, true crank, and I figured I would do something with it. Well, this is my use for it. I've got other engines down here that are busted and fucked up. What they got? They got good cranks in them, so I save them. There's no sense in buying another crank if you know for a fact that you have a good, strong, solid crank. Because when you pull your motor apart, if you got major wear on your piston, if you got major wear on your piston, and we're talking this, dude, we're talking this piston's got like 3,500 miles on it. Look at the wear. There is very little wear. You're going to have some wear, but not like some. Not like some. That's what I mean by a good, strong, true crank. When you get one of those in your hands, you're in there. Because then this will work. And you won't have to send your crank to Fred or nothing crazy. Because if you get a crank in your hand and it's no good, well, then you got to send it off to Fred, or you got to buy one from Fred. Your price of your engine bill just went up to the roof. Nothing personal, but I love Fred. I like his work. He's the only man that I would trust besides Sean Davis to build a motor for me. That's a fucking fact. Raul, what a joke. Boobert, he's a fucking joke. All these other guys out here building these motors who want to sell you this and the other, they're a fucking joke. They're fucking liars. Been there, done that with all these motherfuckers. As everybody done sees. I've been around the block quite a few times with this shit. Time and time again. Now, another thing is, you can do this with cutoff wheels. You do not need, yes, fiberglass reinforced cutoff wheels like Dremels. You do not need a carbide bit. You do not. I don't care who says what. I did this with that bit right there. And that bit's still going. It took me a week to do this. But you see, I got it done because why? The piston fits. The piston fucking fits. So all you motherfuckers want to be out here and mock me and be like, yeah, you're fucking, you don't know what the fuck you're doing? The joke is on you, cocksuckers. The fucking joke's on you, cocksuckers.